Some books define an era, others define all of human thought. Plato's The Republic is one of those rare works, a book that asks not just how we should live, but what it truly means to be good, wise, and just. Written nearly 2,400 years ago, it remains one of the most influential works ever created, shaping philosophy, politics, psychology, and even education. In The Republic, Plato uses a series of conversations between his teacher, Socrates, and several citizens of Athens to explore the deepest questions about morality, truth, and society. The book begins with a simple question: what is justice? At first, the people Socrates speaks to give familiar answers. Some say justice means telling the truth and paying your debts. Others say it means helping your friends and harming your enemies. One man, Thrasymachus, goes even further. He argues that justice is simply the advantage of the stronger that power defines right and wrong. But Socrates disagrees. Through questioning and reason, he shows that true justice cannot depend on power or opinion. It must be rooted in harmony, order, and the health of the soul. To explain this, Plato introduces one of the most famous metaphors in all of philosophy, the just city, or Kallipolis. Socrates imagines building a perfect city from the ground up, not as a blueprint for real politics, but as a mirror for the human soul. He suggests that if we can understand what makes a city just, we can understand what makes a person just. In this city, there are three main classes: the producers, who provide goods and services, the guardians, who defend the city, and the rulers, or philosopher, kings, who govern with wisdom and reason. Each class has its own role, just as each part of the soul has its own function. The producers represent the appetites, desires, and needs. The guardians represent spirit, courage, and will. And the rulers represent reason, the mind that guides and balances all others. Justice, both in the city and in the soul, is achieved when each part performs its proper role in harmony with the rest. When reason rules, courage supports, and desire obeys, the result is balance, the state of justice. Plato's idea of justice is not about laws or punishment. It's about inner order. A just person is one whose soul is aligned, whose actions reflect truth and self-control. This leads to one of Plato's most powerful messages. The outer world is a reflection of the inner world. A just society begins with just individuals. But who should rule such a city? Plato's answer shocked many of his contemporaries. The philosophers. He argues that only those who love truth, seek wisdom, and understand reality as it truly is can govern wisely. He writes that philosophers are not merely thinkers, they are lovers of knowledge, people who see beyond illusion. And this brings us to one of the most famous passages in all of philosophy, the Allegory of the Cave. Plato asks us to imagine a group of prisoners chained inside a dark cave from birth. They face a wall and can only see the shadows of objects cast by a fire behind them. These shadows are their entire reality. Then, one prisoner is freed. As he leaves the cave and steps into the sunlight, he's blinded at first, but as his eyes adjust, he sees the truth, that the shadows were only illusions, and the real world exists beyond the cave. If he returns to tell the others, they might not believe him, they may even reject him. But he knows that what he saw outside the cave was real. The cave represents the human condition. The shadows are illusions, appearances, beliefs, and opinions shaped by ignorance or culture. The world outside represents truth, illuminated by the light of the good, the ultimate reality, the source of all knowledge and virtue. This allegory captures the journey of every thinker, seeker, or philosopher, the painful process of awakening from illusion to truth. The philosopher, Plato says, is like that freed prisoner, one who escapes the cave of ignorance, sees the truth, and then returns to help others. But this is not easy. Many prefer the comfort of shadows to the brightness of truth. The allegory of the cave remains one of the most profound metaphors for enlightenment ever written. It reminds us that most people live in partial understanding, seeing only fragments of reality, and that true wisdom requires courage, humility, and vision. In the Republic, Plato also explores education as the process of turning the soul toward the light. He describes it as the art of awakening what already exists within, not filling the mind with facts, but helping it remember truth. He writes, "Education is not what some people declare it to be, putting knowledge into souls that lack it, like putting sight into blind eyes. It is rather the art of turning the soul around." This idea that knowledge is not learned but remembered is rooted in Plato's belief in the forms, or perfect ideals. For Plato, everything in the material world is an imperfect copy of a perfect idea, a form. There is the form of beauty, the form of justice, the form of goodness, eternal truths that exist beyond time and space. We perceive beauty in the world because we already have some inner sense of the perfect beauty itself. The philosopher's task, then, is to look beyond appearances and seek these eternal forms. In this sense, philosophy becomes a kind of spiritual ascent from illusion to reality, from opinion to knowledge, from shadow to light. Plato also tackles the question of virtue and happiness. He argues that the just life is the happiest life, not because it brings pleasure, but because it aligns the soul with truth and harmony. Injustice, by contrast, creates chaos within the soul. It might bring short-term gain, but it leads to long-term suffering. He writes, "The soul of the unjust man is full of disorder and ignorance, while the soul of the just man is in harmony and peace." To Plato, justice is not only moral, but therapeutic. It heals the soul, just as balance heals the body. Plato's ideal society is hierarchical, yet deeply moral. It's ruled not by force, but by wisdom. The rulers, philosopher kings, live simply, free from wealth and corruption, devoted to truth. The guardians protect, and the producers sustain. Each class is essential, just as each part of the soul is essential. But the Republic is not just a vision of government, it's a mirror for every human being. The city represents the soul. The rulers are your reason, the guardians your will, and the producers your desires. When reason governs, when will follows wisdom, and when desire serves truth, you become just, balanced, and free. Plato concludes that the ultimate goal of life is to contemplate the good, the highest reality, the source of truth, justice, and beauty. To know the good is to know life's purpose, to see clearly, to act rightly, and to live in harmony with the universe. The Republic ends not with law or politics, but with myth, the myth of A warrior named dies in battle and comes back to life, telling of what he saw in the afterlife. Souls are judged according to their deeds, the just rewarded, the unjust punished. Then each soul chooses its next life. Some choose unwisely and fall again into misery. Others choose wisely and rise to a higher state. The message is timeless. Our choices shape our souls. Justice is not merely for this world, it's for eternity. The big takeaway from the Republic is this: justice is harmony within the soul, within society, and within the universe. When we align ourselves with truth and goodness, we find peace, clarity, and purpose. That was The Republic by Plato, broken down into its most powerful lessons in under 15 minutes. Which idea spoke most to you, the allegory of the cave, the philosopher king, or the vision of inner justice? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this summary, make sure to like this video, subscribe to 10-Minute Books, and ring the bell so you never miss our weekly breakdowns of world-changing books. Thanks for watching, and remember, the journey from the cave to the light begins within.